This is Priscilla Lane.
Adolphe Monjou.
And Humphrey Bogart.
The Gulf Screen Guild Theater. Presenting tonight, If You Could Only Cook. And here is your host, the director of the Star's own theater, Roger Pryor.
Good evening, everyone. The Gulf Oil Companies and your neighborhood good Gulf dealer welcome you to the Gulf Screen Guild Theater. Tonight, our story is the delightful Columbia comedy, If You Could Only Cook, starring Adolphe Monjou, Humphrey Bogart, and Priscilla Lane. I'll play the part of Flash. Our story concerns...
How do you like that? I missed him.
Hey, what's the idea? Who's shooting?
Pay no attention to it, buddy. I just took a shot at my cook.
Oh, well, that's all right. Huh?
I guess I'm kind of impetuous. But you know what he done? He forgot to put the garlic in my Bordelaise sauce. The rat shooting's too good for him.
Well, that gives you an idea of what happens when an infamous gangster named Dan Nolan hides the soul of a gourmet under his bulletproof vest, and what might be in store for an unemployed typist and a tired millionaire when they enter his employ as cook and butler. Ridiculous situation, isn't it? Well, you hold still, and we'll soon find out how it comes about. In just a moment, Oscar Bradley's Gulf Orchestra will play one of the briefest overtures ever written, and our story will begin. But first, here's something else that's very brief and very important. All right, Bud?
A good automobile certainly can give you an amazing number of miles of service if you take good care of it. Normally, you'd hardly even begin to use up that mileage, but these days you may very well want to drive your car longer than usual. That's why good care is mighty important, especially the right kind of lubrication service. So better stop at your good Gulf dealers for Gulflex registered lubrication. Gulflex protects the vital wearing points in the chassis of your car with 6 specially developed lubricants, scientifically applied. Yet Gulflex registered lubrication costs no more than an ordinary grease job. Better be sure your car gets this special care, and be sure, too, that it gets that high anti-knock Gulf no-knox gasoline, designed to stop harmful pounding and hammering inside your engine. For products, for service, and to help your car stay young longer, stop at your good Gulf dealers.
Buchanan Automobile Company. Mr. Buchanan, one moment, please. I'll connect you with his secretary.
Mr. Buchanan's office. Oh, I'm sorry, he isn't in. Who? Oh, Miss Fletcher. But he isn't in, Miss Fletcher. Sure, I know he's going to marry you next week, but until then he's his own boss, isn't he? Now, look, he erupted out of a director's meeting a half an hour ago. Well, you might reach him by carrier pigeon. You see, every time he gets upset, he takes himself for a walk in the park. What's that, Miss Fletcher? How do I know what?
Go away, go away. Go away, pigeon. Shoo. I haven't any peanuts. Go away. Make yourself a nice pigeon nest and sit in it. You know, you birds are just as stubborn as my board of directors, only you sound a little more intelligent. You're welcome. All right, since you insist upon this board meeting, I'll tell you what I think of each one of you. You, Flanagan, I was designing automobiles while you were still selling insurance. And you, Mr. Collins, you're still living in the day when a buggy whip was standard equipment on every horseless carriage. Mr. Lannon, you're a fool. Brown, you're an idiot. And Jones, you're a nincompoop.
You forgot the little moth-eaten pigeon here on the end.
What? Oh, I beg your pardon. I didn't know there was anybody else on the bench.
Well, don't mind me. If you want to tell these pigeons off, go right ahead.
I really have nothing against pigeons.
Oh, I know. You've lost your job and you're mad at the world. Isn't that right? Well, here, you better look this over.
Look what over?
The want ads. Help wanted, mail.
Oh, well, you see, I don't really want...
Well, you'll never find anything if you don't look. You don't want to go on relief, do you?
Well, I would like to avoid that as long as possible. What kind of work do you do?
Oh, typist, secretary. What's your particular line?
Automobiles.
Oh, grease monkey, huh?
Well, I...
Bet you look cute in a uniform. Well, you see anything in the paper you like?
There's nothing that really appeals to me.
Boy, when you've been out of a job as long as I have, you won't be so particular. Gee, I wish I was a couple.
Couple of what?
People. The only good ads are for couples. Here, just look at this one. Yeah, right here. Cook and butler, $175 a month. Wow.
Now, if you could only cook...
But I can. I'm a marvelous cook. Say, wait a minute. Can you buttle?
Bottle?
Yeah, you know. Very good, sir. Dinner is served, madame. Your coat, sir?
Well, there's nothing difficult about that.
Then what are we waiting for? Come on.
Now, wait a minute, not so fast.
Oh, look, it's a job, isn't it?
Yes, but we're not a couple. That is, we are a couple, but not in the legal sense. Anyway, I haven't said I'd do it.
But you have to do
Well,
it.
it's too fantastic. I'd like to talk it over.
Well, save your talk for the interview. It's a chance of a lifetime for both of us. Wait, I'll look up the address.
But look, I don't even know you. We can't do a thing like this without...
Here it is. Apply to D.F. Nolan, Nolan Manor, Longhaven. Let's go.
Now, wait. Nolan? Did you say D.F. Nolan?
Uh-huh.
Why, my dear girl, Nolan is the biggest racketeer in the city.
I wouldn't care if he had 6 heads. He's still paying $175 a month. Well, what do you say?
Well, wait. I'll take it up to my board of directors. What do you say, Mr. Flanagan? And you, Mr. Collins? Oh, you think I shouldn't go, eh? Well, you can all go jump in the lake.
You mean we're going after the job?
You bet we are. And let's hurry before some other couple beats us to it.
Okay, Flash. Start running them in. Send the next couple in.
Okay, boss.
Quiet.
I beg your pardon,
Wait your turn, buddy. Hey, you in the front. Come on in.
Hey, Ben, thank you.
And never mind thanking him. Let me see what you can do on that stove.
Yeah,
What's the receipt of your Bordelaise sauce? How much garlic do you use?
garlic. In this sauce, I Ben used no garlic, Mr. Nolan. I only used
No garlic. Get out. Go on. Feed it.
Well,
No garlic. Send in the next one, Flash.
Okay, Frenchie, you're next. Tell the boss what you can do with garlic.
Ah, the garlic, Monsieur Nolan.
Ah, you like garlic, huh?
Ah, mais oui. It is the perfume of the épicure.
Ah, gee, when you say it like that, it sounds good, too.
Alors, you take a medium-sized piece comme ci, drop it into the sauce comme ça.
What? Did you hear that, Flash? He drops it in the sauce. Get out before I throw you out.
On your way, Frenchie, on your way. Here's the next couple, boss. Butler and the cook.
The guy seems to know his onions, but you better ask the dame about her garlic.
Ah, come here, sister. Now, how much garlic do you use in Bordelaise sauce?
Garlic, Mr. Nolan? Well, in this particular sauce, you want only the ghost of the shadow of the flavor of garlic.
Ah, the ghost of the shadow.
The garlic should be suspended between thumb and forefinger above the saucepan and gently wafted back and forth like this.
Did you hear that? The ghost of the shadow wafted back and forth.
There. Taste that, Mr. Nolan.
Ah, baby, the job is yours.
Honest?
Sure. Say, what's your name?
Joan?
Okay, now, how about your old man?
Well, my name is James, sir. James Burns.
Well, I always wanted a butler named James.
Wait a minute, boss.
Yeah, what's the matter, Flash?
Well, if I'm going to bodyguard you, I got to ask these guys a couple of questions.
Ah, you and your sense of duty.
Hey, you took out references?
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 Yeah.
Well, you see, sir, unfortunately, our trunks were lost.
They fell off the boat.
What boat?
What difference does it make what boat? They fell off the boat. They're hired.
Now, wait a minute, boss. I got a right to know what boat.
Oh, of course. It was the Mauritania.
You see? Okay, Flash, that's enough questions. Take them upstairs and show them where they bunk. I'm going to lap up the rest of this sauce. Ah, the ghost of the shadow.
Mr. Flash, you don't mean there's only one bedroom?
For sure. There's only two of you, ain't there? Don't tell me you got a flock of kids.
No, there's just the two of us.
Well, then what do you expect? Oh, I suppose where you worked before you had a whole suite, huh, Toots? Hey, that's good. Toots suite, huh?
Very funny. Good night, sir.
You don't get it. I said, whole suite, Toots. Toots suite.
Thank you very much. Good night, sir.
Okay. The boss wants his breakfast at 8. That's the trouble with these servants. Ain't got no sense of humor.
Well, John, it was nice while it lasted anyway.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, obviously, we can't stay in the same room.
No, we can't. But there's a balcony right outside that door. We'll take turns. One of us sleeps in here, and the other one...
Gets pneumonia. All right. Give me the blanket.
Oh, Jim, you aren't angry.
Angry? Why, I'm as happy as a bird. And I'll probably feel like one sleeping on the balcony.
I know I rushed you into this thing, and I hope you won't be sorry. You see, things have been going so badly, I just had to do something. No job, no money. I was desperate.
Why, you poor little kid. Well, I guess we'd better not talk about it tonight.
But I do want you to know how I feel. Well, here's your blanket.
Thanks. Well, good night, Mrs. Burns.
Gee, it sounds funny, doesn't it? Well, good night, Mr. Burns.
You won't have to lock that door.
Oh, thank you.
Well, good night.
I hope it'll be cozy for you.
What was that?
I said I hope it won't be too cold for you.
Oh. Well, good night.
Good night.
Well,
good night.
Mr. and Mrs. Burns all settled, Flash?
Yeah. Yeah, but, boss, I tell you something phony about them two.
Ah, you're too suspicious. Boy, what a cook.
I'll lay you 6-2, and even right now, the guy's a G-man.
Yeah? Well, since when does a G-man travel around with a dame?
She could be a G-woman, couldn't she?
Oh, now listen, Flash, listen. If there's anything phony with either one of them, they ain't gonna live to talk about it. Now, stop worrying.
Okay, but I just thought of something. They said they arrived this morning on the Mauritania, didn't they?
So what?
So the Mauritania happens to be a troop transport now.
So what?
So if they was on the Mauritania, they ain't a cook and a butler. They're a couple of English soldiers in Egypt.
Okay. Just keep your eye on them, that's all. And tell the boys not to open up when they're around. I still ain't gonna lose a cook like that. Hey.
Huh?
Hey, look out the window.
Oh, what is it, boss?
Look up there on the sleeping porch.
Who's that guy with the blanket?
It ain't no Indian.
It's that guy, James. I told you something was phony. He's going to sleep out on the porch.
Wait a minute. Put that gun away, will you?
Now, you see? Supposed to be married. And she's sleeping in the bedroom, and he's sleeping on the porch. Now, what do you think of your friend, the G-Man?
I think he's a dope.
So the first act of our Gulf Theater story ends with Joan in the bedroom, Jim in a draft, and Flash in the mood to make trouble. From here on, anything can happen. But before it does, we'd like to say...
You know, old Father Time can certainly creep right up on you. For instance, right now, November's almost over. And there are probably a good many of you motorists who still have a crankcase full of motor oil that's dirty and full of grit. Don't delay any longer. Make sure your engine is well protected. Drive in tomorrow at your neighborhood Good Gulf dealers and get some fresh Gulf Lube motor oil of the right seasonal grade. Gulf Lube is the finest regular-priced motor oil Gulf has ever sold. It's refined by the exclusive Multisol process. Hence, resists the formation of sludge, helps prevent hard carbon deposits, and gives you surprisingly high mileage, low consumption. And at the same time you get Gulf Lube, protect the chassis of your car with Gulf Flex registered lubrication. The modern method of car lubrication that uses not one, but 6 special Gulf Flex lubricants. Get both Gulf Flex registered lubrication and Gulf Lube motor oil. So for better protection and to help your car last longer, stop tomorrow at the sign of the Gulf Orange Disc.
And now for the second act of If You Could Only Cook, starring Humphrey Bogart, Priscilla Lane, and Adolphe Maju. It's a week later. We find our 4 friends pretty much as we left them, only more so. Nolan is crazy about Joan's cooking and is eating his head off. Flash still has his watchful eye and his suspicious leer, only more so. Joan is interested in her job and Jim. Jim Buchanan, alias James Burns, is interested in Joan, only more so. As our scene opens, Dan Nolan is at the dinner table still eating his head off.
I'll have another generous helping of that stuff, sister. It's delicious.
But, Mr. Nolan, I've already filled your plate 8 times.
What do you mean 8 times? It was only 7. Do you think I'm a pig?
Oh, very well, Mr. Nolan. You can have all you like. Do you mind if I go to the kitchen? I have some work to do.
Okay, but leave the bowl here.
Thank you. Why, Jim. Why, Jim, what do you think you're doing?
Well, I thought I'd wash the dishes so you'd have a little less work to do.
Well, thanks, but since when do you wash dishes with a whisk broom?
Well, I couldn't find anything else, and it does a good job.
You know, I've been watching you the past week, and I don't think you've ever done any real work in your whole life.
But that's ridiculous. I worked my way through college doing this.
College? Next you'll be telling me you went to Yale.
Smile when you say that. It was Harvard.
Harvard? Yeah, you went through Harvard in a rubberneck bus. No kidding. Where did you work last?
Well, I worked at the James Buchanan Automobile Company.
What were you, shipping clerk?
No, I was really very close to Mr. Buchanan. Bucky, I called him.
Oh, really? I suppose you could walk right into Jim's private office.
Jim, you mean Bucky?
Oh, I called him Jim.
Oh? You were very close to him, too?
Oh, I was his private secretary. He couldn't make a move without me.
Really? Well, tell me more.
Well, as a matter of fact, I'd still be with him, but his fiancée is so jealous.
He certainly is. I mean, I've heard a lot of office gossip.
Oh, but he writes me and begs me to come back. You see, he's really in love with me.
Yes, I think he is. I mean, I can see that he couldn't help it.
Oh, he's wonderful. He's so noble, so tender, so sweet, so romantic.
You're dripping suds on the floor.
Oh, well. I guess it's fate. Evelyn Fletcher gets married tomorrow and gets James Buchanan. And when I get married someday, what'll I get?
I don't know. What?
I'll probably get stuck with somebody like you. You sent for me, Mr. Nolan?
Yeah, Joan. Sit down. I want to talk to you. Go on. Sit down.
Well, really, Mr. Nolan, I've got lamb chops in the oven.
Ah, lamb chops. But business before pleasure. This is important.
Is there something wrong with my cooking?
No. It's divine. It's the nuts. You're a swell cook, and coming for me, that's something.
Oh, thank you.
Now, what I got to say is about that old man of yours. You know, James.
Oh, has he done something wrong?
He ain't doing right. You and him been married long?
Oh, why, yes, quite some time.
Are you happy?
Oh, of course.
Well, then how come he sleeps out on the porch? Answer me that.
Oh, well, he's a fresh air fiend.
That ain't what I call him. Come here, baby.
Mr. Nolan,
now, look, why don't you get rid of that dope? A beautiful doll like you ought to have a couple of buckets of diamonds, a house full of mink coats, and a pack of yachts.
Oh, Mr. Nolan, please. My lamb chops.
Oh, lamb chops. Well, now, look, Joan, I ain't so hard to take, am I?
Oh, Mr. Nolan, stop.
Oh, come on now, Johnny, come on. Come on, Johnny.
Mr. Nolan.
Huh?
If you please.
Hello, James.
Perhaps you two would like me to be alone.
Oh, no, Jim, I was...
All right, Joan. Get upstairs and pack.
Hey, now, look here, wise guy.
Mr. Nolan, Joan and I are quitting.
Jim!
Oh, now, wait a minute, James. You don't want to fly off the handle.
It's a fine thing when a married man can't trust his employer.
Yeah, but I wasn't doing anything. Honest, I wasn't. I was only complimenting her lamb chops.
Go on, Joan. I said pack our things.
No, wait a minute. Look here, James. I don't care if you are her husband. You can't come between me and her cooking. Now, maybe I was a little rough, but let's not get excited over a little thing like that. Now, look, I'll double your salary, see? And I won't even talk to Joan anymore. What do you say to that?
Absolutely not.
Oh, we'll think about it, Mr. Nolan.
Oh, please. If you'll just stay, I'll be good. Honest, I will. And double the salary.
Now, look, Joan, you're surely not thinking of staying.
Oh, why not? There's nothing vicious about Nolan. Why, he's as harmless as a kitten.
Yes, and you're catnip to him.
Jim, let's sit down a minute and discuss this like sensible human beings.
There's nothing to discuss. Come on, let's get packed.
But why? Don't see any reason in it.
No reason? Do you think I can go on working for a man who makes passes at my wife?
Your wife?
Certainly. What kind of a husband do you think I am?
Well, we're not really married.
What? Oh, that's right. I seem to keep forgetting that. Oh, Joan.
Yes, Jim?
Joan, I don't know exactly how to say this.
Yes, Jim?
Well, what I mean is, what if this fellow James Buchanan, the one you said was in love with you, what if he were to come to you?
Oh, he won't.
But suppose he did. What if he decided that he couldn't marry Evelyn Fletcher tomorrow? He was too much in love with you?
Oh, Jim Buchanan would never do a thing like that.
What makes you think he wouldn't?
Well, he's just not that sort of man. Jim told this Evelyn he'd marry her, and he will. He'd never back out on a deal.
But what if he knew he was madly in love with you? That he'd never be happy with the other girl?
Well, he'd keep it to himself. That's because he's honorable and fine. That's what I loved about him.
You don't know what you talked yourself into.
Oh, well, let's not talk about James Buchanan anymore. What was it you wanted to tell me, Jim?
Not a thing, John. Not a single blessed thing.
Flash, don't stand there with that dumb look on your pan. I'm asking a simple question. Where's my butler? Where's my cook? And where's my breakfast?
And I'm trying to tell you, boss, that guy James has took a run-out powder. Your cook's crying all over the kitchen, and you ain't got no breakfast.
Oh, is that so? Well, just wait till I talk to that cook. Hey, you.
Yes, Mr. Nolan.
Oh, now. Now, look, baby, nothing could be as tough as that.
He's left me.
You mean for good? Well, how do you know?
He left a note.
Ah, well, you never ought to marry him in the first place.
I never did.
You mean he led you astray? Why, the dirty rat. One of them gigolos, huh? Oh, no. Don't cry, baby. He ain't worth it. Look, I still think you're a swell dish, and that deal is still open. Now, how'd you like to go on cooking for me the rest of your life? How'd you like to be Mrs. Dan Nolan, huh?
Oh, you don't really mean that, Mr. Nolan. It's only that your kind stomach's gotten the better of your good heart.
No, it ain't. I've always dreamed of coming home after a hard day at the rackets, tired and worn out. And curling up before the fire with a good cook.
Oh, you're very kind, but I couldn't possibly marry you, Mr. Nolan.
Oh, I get it. You're letting me down easy. You're still in love with that James mug, huh?
Oh, he's not a mug. He's sweet, and he went to Harvard.
But look, Dainati, that ain't a skirt for you. Hey, Flash.
Yeah, boss. Say, who do you think's got his picture in this paper?
Now, look, Pantywaist, stop reading Superman and listen to me.
No, this ain't Superman. It's James.
James? You mean our James?
Yeah, look, he's getting married today to a society dame.
Here, let me see that. Evelyn Fletcher and James Buchanan.
You see, his name ain't even Boynes. Boy, does that buoy me up.
We'll be married today at the wedding chapel.
What'd I tell you? His name's Buchanan.
No, it ain't. His name's Mutt. Get the boys, Flash, and tell them to meet me in half an hour.
Okay.
I'll show that guy he can't do this to the cook I love.
Evelyn.
Jim. Oh, Jim, you mustn't come in. You're not supposed to see me in my wedding dress until the ceremony.
I've got to see you, Evelyn, and I've got to talk to you.
But, darling, there isn't time. There's the wedding march.
Evelyn, I'm not going to let you make a mistake.
Yes?
Pardon me. It's time for the ceremony.
Well, we'll be right there, Reverend Tuttle.
Thank you.
Now, what do you mean you won't let me make a mistake?
Well, I think you'll be very unhappy with me, Evelyn. And if you want to call off the wedding...
Call off the wedding? Are you crazy? What about all... I mean, are you stark staring mad? Yes?
I hate to keep bothering you all the time, but the guests are becoming restless.
We'll be right out, Reverend Tuttle.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Buchanan, I'm waiting for an explanation.
Now, look, Evelyn, you don't care anything about me. I know it. You know it. The whole town knows it.
What's that got to do with it? Yes, come in.
I do hate to keep annoying you this way, but the ceremony... Oh, dear me, what's that?
All right, everybody. Just stay put and you won't get hurt. Stand to one side, Grandpa.
I beg your pardon. I'm Reverend Tuttle.
Oh, well, stick around. Well, if it ain't our little James.
Well, hello, Nolan.
What do you want? Get out of here.
That's just what I'm doing, lady. Come on, James. I want to have a little talk with you.
He can't go. He's getting married to me.
Not on my time, he ain't. Come on, James. Move, and move fast. You too, Reverend Tuttle.
I?
Get going.
By all means. You'll excuse me, Evelyn?
Stop! Come back! You can't get away with this, James Buchanan. It's a trick. And I'll sue you for breach of promise. I'll sue you for $50,000. I'll sue you for $100,000. I'll sue you for...
That's enough, Flash. Okay, now let's get this thing over. Joan, you take hold of James's mitt like Reverend Tuttle says.
Mr. Nolan, I refuse to be the bride at a machine gun wedding.
Now, see here, Nolan. I'd like to ask you something.
You don't ask nothing. You've been trifling with her heart, ruining her cooking, and now you're going to marry her.
But who said I wanted to marry him?
You told me you loved him not 2 hours ago.
She did. Did she say that? About me?
Sure, right here in this room. Go ahead, Reverend, and make it short.
Do you, James Buchanan, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?
Buchanan? Did you say Buchanan?
Sure, Jim Burns and James Buchanan are one and the same guy.
To love, to honor, and...
Buchanan?
And...
You're James Buchanan?
And cherish, and will you please keep quiet?
Yes. The one you told me about. The one who's so sweet and understanding. Remember? I was so noble and so romantic.
Please.
I cried and begged you to come back.
As long as you both shall live.
I do.
Oh, how could you?
I can't go on with all this disturbance.
Keep talking, keep talking.
Please, sir, there's no need for gunplay. Do you, Joan Masters, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?
Go away from
love,
me. Leave me
honor.
alone.
Joan, wait. You've got to listen to me. You said once you were in love with Jim Buchanan.
To love, to honor.
You said that already.
Well, I have to say it to both of you. As long as you both shall live.
You were laughing at me all the time, getting a great kick out of kidding me alone.
Well, do you take him for your lawfully wedded husband?
She does.
In sickness?
Joan, darling. I love you enough for 2 men, Jim Burns and Jim Buchanan. Look, I've got a great solution. Why don't you commit bigamy and marry both of us?
In sickness and in
I
health.
don't want to get married. I don't want to have anything to do with men. I don't want to marry anybody.
Whom God has joined asunder, let no man put together. Oh, no, I
Joan. Joan, dear, don't you understand? I love you.
Oh, Jim.
I mean, whom God has put asunder. Oh, dear, what do I mean?
You mean you pronounce a man and wife okay to marry? Boy, does that give me an empty feeling.
Does it really, Mr. Nolan?
Yes, it does. Come on, let's go out to the kitchen. I'm hungry.
Thanks to Adolph Humphrey and lovely Priscilla Lane for a really delightful comedy. And full credit to Ed James for his excellent adaptation. Incidentally, friends, we hope you've all enjoyed our show tonight as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you. We're pleased and proud to present the great stars of motion pictures to you every week in the Gulf Screen Guild Theater, for inasmuch as they all donate their performances, Gulf is able to give the money they would ordinarily receive to the very worthy cause of the Motion Picture Relief Fund.
Hello, Buchanan Automobile Company. Who? Oh, Miss Fletcher. Yes, that's right, Miss Fletcher. He married the other girl. I'm terribly sorry you lost him, Miss Fletcher, and I know just how you feel, but cheer up. There's more to life than a mere man. What, for instance? Why, a good radio program. Yes, indeed. You tune into the Gulf Screen Guild Theater program next Sunday, because we've got a show that's guaranteed to chase your blues away. Yes, sir, it's that sparkling Warner Brothers comedy, The Perfect Specimen. And it stars Melvin Douglas, Betty Grable, and Dame May Whitty. What's that? You feel better already? Oh, good. You're welcome. Goodbye.
Well, believe me, if Miss Fletcher thinks she feels good now, she's really going to be riding high next week when she tunes into the Gulf Screen Guild Theater and hears Betty Grable, Melvin Douglas, and Dame May Whitty in The Perfect Specimen. She'll enjoy the music of Oscar Bradley, assisted by Frank Tours, too. It'll be a great show, so don't miss it. Until then, this is Roger Pryor, speaking for your neighborhood good Gulf dealer and saying good night, everyone.
Now a word from Gulf about defense savings bonds. In the early days of our country, Patrick Henry said, "Is life so dear or peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery?" The answer today is no as then. So do your part to keep our country free. Buy defense bonds and stamps. Adolphe Menjou can now be seen in the RKO picture Syncopation, Humphrey Bogart in The Maltese Falcon, and Priscilla Lane in Blues in the Night, both Warner Brothers pictures. Don't forget our date for next week when we present Melvin Douglas, Betty Grable, and Dame May Whitty in the comedy hit The Perfect Specimen. Bud Easton speaking. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Between Americans, starring Orson Welles.
the Gulf Screen Guild Theater. The Gulf Oil Companies and your good Gulf dealer are proud to present a dramatic picture of this, our America. Here is your host, Roger Pryor, to tell you about it.
Good evening, everyone. We welcome you tonight to one of the most timely programs ever heard on the Gulf Screen Guild Theater. Our production of Norman Corwin's script, Between Americans, starring Orson Welles. Broadcast at any time, we believe this program would make every American's heart beat a little faster. Make him hold his head just a little higher. But since the tragic and foreboding news that came today, this program, Between Americans, now becomes an American odyssey. In just a moment, our story will begin. But first, here's Bud Heaston.
Right. And here's an easy way to change from a pessimist into an optimist. If you're wondering now how long you may have to keep your present car, and wondering, too, if it will last, if it will stay in good condition, just look on the bright side of the picture. Remember, when you give the wearing parts of your car good protection, that helps it stay young and act young a long, long time. So give your automobile the modern method of lubrication, Gulflex registered lubrication. Here's why. First,
Expert Gulflex operator works from a master chart of your model car, thus protects each wearing point in the chassis and body.
second,
The Gulflex man uses not just 1 or 2 greases, but 6 special lubricants, especially developed by lubrication authorities.
and third, here's proof of how good these lubricants are.
In recent tests by Gulf engineers, Gulflex chassis lubricant, for instance, stayed in the shackles 30% better and lubricated nearly 100% longer than the average of competitive products tested.
So get Gulflex registered lubrication, a much better than usual grease job at no extra cost. Remember, too, that your good Gulf dealer is also ready with splendid motor oils and gasolines, such as Gulf No-Nox gasoline, the extra value gasoline that has been especially designed to stop harmful pounding and hammering inside your engine. Make it a habit to stop regularly at your neighborhood good Gulf dealers, your headquarters for making your car last longer.
And now, Oscar Bradley's music introduces Orson Welles, who will talk Between Americans.
This program is Between Americans. That's where the title comes in. We hope you like it, but you don't have to. At any rate, nobody's going to make you stick around and listen to it. That's one of the advantages of being an American. Now, tonight we're doing something quite foreign to the type of thing usually presented by the Gulf Screen Guild Theater. Instead of telling a story about 5 or 6 people, we're telling a story about 100 million. This happens to include you, listener, whatever your name may be. As a matter of fact, names don't bother real Americans very much. Not when we've got states named after French kings and English queens are lifted right out of the Latin language like Montana, or out of the Spanish like Nevada, and towns. You know, if you were to hold a convention of all the people who live in foreign-sounding American towns, we could fill quite a sizable stadium. Among the delegates registering on the first day would be...
Me, I'm the delegate from London, Minnesota.
I'm in from Dublin, New Hampshire.
Flew in this morning from Cairo, Illinois. Huh? Whose turn, me? I'm from Canton, Connecticut.
I'm from Paris, Texas.
I came all the way from Shanghai, West Virginia.
Warsaw, Georgia.
I'm the delegate representing Moscow, Kentucky.
My town is Toronto, Kansas.
As for me, Lisbon, Maine.
Delegate from Madrid, Alabama reporting.
I'm from Stockholm, South Dakota.
Drove down this afternoon from Bombay, New York.
Hitchhiked here from Baghdad, Florida.
All right, delegates, now that you've registered, you may all be seated. Now, that's all the preliminaries there's going to be tonight. We're through with the introductions, the overture, and the official registration. So now we can get down to the text, which is, roughly speaking, this. Today, particularly, people are thinking about their country pretty hard. Some of them for the first time in their lives. People are wondering where we're headed. Men are being called on to get ready to defend America. A lot of them are thinking in terms of what is there to defend. Well, now, America means a lot of things to a lot of people. Most of them are solid patriots, only they don't know it. They don't have to wear a red and white and blue button in their lapels to prove it. They don't have to agree with or even listen to people like this.
My fellow citizens, in this great state of Cleveland plethora, we can picture don't squirtle your taxes. Our great country is cribbly bolted up and can wackle tabblewick, and your Laganoi Rillera, Harrington forever!
We got a good hunch most people prefer the quiet kind of speaker, like the fellow who got up on a platform in a Pennsylvania town one day and said,
"The world will little note, nor long remember what we say here."
That was the Gettysburg Address he was referring to. As a matter of fact, he didn't get such good reviews the next morning. Take, for example, the write-up he got in the Harrisburg Patriot.
We pass over the silly remarks of the president. For the credit of the nation, we are willing that they shall no more be repeated and thought of.
If you think that's bad, listen to what the Chicago Times had to say.
The cheek of every American must tingle with shame as he reads the silly, flat, and dishwatery utterances of the man who has to be pointed out to intelligent foreigners as the President of the United States.
Of course, the rival paper in Chicago took the opposite point of view. Rival papers often do.
The remarks of President Lincoln will live among the annals of man.
That paper gave it 4 stars, and they were right. The Gettysburg Address did survive. But that business of calling a president a ham is really something to be proud of. I mean, the right to print a piece saying a president makes a sound like dishwater. Nobody dragged the editors off to jail, even if they were wrong. That's important. Comes under the heading of free press. As soon as anybody starts gagging the press, any press, watch out. Americans don't like that. And by the way, we got a nerve to be calling ourselves Americans all the time when we're really only United Staters. We're a little selfish about that. It's America down there in Chile, too. All the way down the spine of the Andes. If any of you folks are hearing this down around Mexico or Honduras or Salvador or Argentina, or even if you're an Eskimo in the Arctic, we hope you'll overlook our calling ourselves Americans as though we were the only ones in the hemisphere. We do that just because it's so much easier to say than anything else, and also because it sounds so good. By the way, before we leave the subject, what about the original American? The Indians. There's a forgotten race for you. How about the Indian on the nickel and the buffalo who roamed the back of the great American jit? Seems a shame. No 2 ways about it. We have forgotten those 100% Americans who went down to quarantine to meet the Mayflower. We don't see them around in person very much these days. But their ghosts are still with us. Maybe the red men are forgotten. Maybe not. But between you and us, it's said that near Boonesboro, Kentucky, on certain nights in November, by the light of the waning moon, some very peculiar ghost meetings go on in the woods south of the river. Also in certain parts of the Alleghenies, between the hours of sundown and the coming of the morning mist. Yes. If you happen to be listening to this in a car, driving along Highway 99 in Wyoming, that man you passed walking down the road a few miles back wasn't a man at all. Seriously, they were brave people. The Indians fought a losing fight against great odds. Wanted nothing more than to keep their land and their way of life. Fighting the fight so many people of all races have had to fight since. The fight to keep free and independent. The fight to stop men from the outside who want to civilize somebody their way. You ever asked yourself what America means to you? Does it mean 1776? Columbia, the gem of the ocean? Big business? The Bill of Rights? Uncle Sam? Chances are it means none of these things. Chances are it means something very personal to each of you. Something close to your heart which you'd miss like the very blazes if you were stranded abroad. Might have nothing at all to do with quotes from Madison or acts of Congress. It might be just the feeling about the crisp autumns in New England and the smell of burning leaves. It might be the memory of the way they smooth off the infield between the games of a doubleheader. It might be a thing as small as your little finger. You ever been abroad and run out of American cigarettes?
Hey, speak English, mister?
No, senor. Solo hablo español.
Well, anyway, do you carry cigarettes?
Ah, cigarrillo. Sí, tenemos bastante aquí.
No, I just want cigarettes. Here, I'll take these. How much?
20 centavos.
Yeah, keep the change. Hey, got a light there, senor?
Sí, como no, senor. Un momento.
Hey, what is this? Soft, cold soup? Tastes like an old shoe. Here, you can smoke the rest of them. Phooey.
There you are. America might mean a tight-packed cigarette, which tastes good. Might mean the way a hot dog man slaps mustard on a Frank. Might mean going with your wife to the movie on bank night. Or taking your girl to the annual barn dance and social at Tuckerman's Barn. Plenty of you listeners know what I'm talking about.
First coming out, need to come on the right. Wave your arms, wave the machine. Wave that pretty girl back to me. When you're opposite, now you're on. Pop the cord, a little bitty ring. Go see, lady, you pretty little thing. On to the next, don't be slow. Make that wooden leg jar the bow. On the corner with your left hand. Meet your partner, right, left, right.
You hear people speak of home defense? This is the home. The home to be defended. The square dance down the Glen a piece. In old man Tuckerman's barn. This is the America of all the couples dancing there tonight. That's what the nation means to Butch and Fred and Jenny and Elvira. And this is America to all the boys and girls from Malvern County and their folks at home, waiting for them. What do you suppose America means to that auto repair man in the grease-cake dungarees who works in the garage in the corner of Willow and Elm Street? It means, quite likely, crawling under the 1936 Buick and dragging an electric light bulb on a long extension after him.
Hey, Joe, hand me that wrench.
What wrench?
The wrench at your feet. I got to finish this apprentice job.
Why don't he sell that jalopy and get a new boat?
Hey, you want to talk us out of business? As long as he keeps his car, we get a repair job once in a while.
Yeah, guess you're right.
Sure. That's America to Pete and Joe. Piston job, transmission job, valve job, jack it up, change the tire. New fan belt, check the pump. On Saturday night, take the girl down to Joyland Dance Park. Means repairs to those boys and cans of oil and carburetor mixtures. And to Jack Prentice, who owns the Buick that Pete is fixing and who lives down on the beach near the Coast Guard station, America means the sound and the sight and the smell of high tide under the full moon, with occasionally the melancholy note of the bellboy drifting up when the wind's blowing in from the ship channel. Means the age-old sound of the sea. The same sound folks are hearing this very minute up around Penobscot Bay and Winthrop Beach and Chincoteague Inlet down by Calabogue Sound and on Boca Chica and then clean over to the other coast by Guadalupe, Carmel. Yes. Wind and wave and sand and rock and riptide and undertow. That's America to Jack Prentice and the hundreds of thousands of folks settled on the coastlines between Eastport and Key West, Point Isabel and Birch Bay. America is all things to all the people. Prairie to Nebraskans, coal to Scranton miners, cameras and raw celluloid to the picture boys in Hollywood, the stink of crude oil to the men who work the wells, relief checks to the unemployed, a mic and a stopwatch to a radio production man, a BMT Express to Brooklyn office workers. Sure, that's the way it goes. Or isn't it? What does this country mean to you? It might mean anything. Anything at all. It might mean a course in highfalutin poetry at Harvard.
Today, gentlemen, we will consider the influence of Whitman on the development of poetry in America. And by 1870, after 12 years of incessant attack against squeamish over-refinements, Whitman really began to create an active distaste for literary affectation.
Or else it might be an argument between two baseball fans as to which is the better team, the Yankees or the Red Sox.
Yeah, but look! The Yanks are a bunch of old men and cripples.
Yeah.
They won't last. I tell you, they won't last. Well, it gets good and hot around the middle of July.
Yeah.
Wait up, doubleheaders begin piling up.
What are you talking? Listen, DeMage is having the best season he ever had. He's an old man, huh? Keller hitting a dozen homers. I'd like to be a cripple like that. New home run record for the club. Won't last, huh? Who's the Red Sox got as good as DeMage? Name one guy. Name one.
I'll name two. Ted Williams.
Oh, good hitter. No getting away from that. But you say he's better than DeMage?
Pitching.
Wait a minute. Do you say...
Or it could be a poker game in Charlie Ferreter's law office upstairs over the 5 and 10 cent store on a rainy afternoon. Or a meeting of the Kiwanis Club in the Mansion House on Thursday. Or the news store. Or a great symphony concert sent out over everybody's air, playing the music of all the world's great composers, regardless of their race or nationality. For instance, something by a great German Jew named Mendelssohn. Something you couldn't play in certain countries on the other side. Now let's stop a minute and figure this out. Is it an accident that makes just being a citizen in this comparatively young country so attractive to so many people? To the world's greatest skater from Norway? To the world's greatest mathematician from Germany? To the world's greatest orchestra conductor from Italy? Is it an accident that 1,000 million people all around the world would give everything they own to be in your shoes? A free citizen of this country, right this very minute? Is it the weather here? Let's ask some of the natives. You from New York, how's the weather out your way?
Oh, I like it all right, only the summers give me a pain, sticky and hot. And then we usually get a stretch of terrible overcast weather around April and November. Sometimes 10 days go by without the sun coming out once.
And you, miss, from Miami, Florida.
Oh, our climate's fine. Except you have to watch out for sunburn.
A gentleman from Kansas?
Summers get pretty hot. Winter's pretty cold. Tornadoes raise a ruckus every once in a while.
Los Angeles. You?
Ah, wonderful climate. Magnificent.
Don't you ever get tired of all that sunshine?
No, sir. Not a bit.
Never rains?
Well, a little precipitation maybe, but no rain.
No earthquakes?
No, just little ones. Are you interested in some real estate?
No, thanks. And you from San Francisco, how about it there?
Best climate in the world, top.
Lots of sunshine?
Lots.
Lots of fog?
Lots.
All right. Then it's not the weather which makes us so attractive. Is it maybe our wine, women, and song? Let's ask the experts. You there, expert on women.
American women are beautiful, certainly. But we've never produced any classic or historic beauty. We've no legendary figure to compare with Helen of Troy, or with any of the Greek or Roman Venuses, or with Egypt's Cleopatra. As far as fiction is concerned, we can offer nobody to stand up against Italy's Juliet, or Germany's Isolde, or France's Roxane. Certainly not Scarlett O'Hara.
Certainly not.
No, indeed.
All right, that's fine. Thanks very much. Now, what about our wines? Is that what makes America so attractive from the outside looking in? How about it, wine expert?
American wines are excellent, but then, of course, meaning no offense, have you ever heard of French champagne, Burgundy, Lied Bramé?
All right, thank you. Thank you. Can it be our song? Maestro.
America can well be proud of its composers and of its wealth of folk music. But the fact of the matter is that we have yet to produce a single world-great symphony, whereas Finland has produced 7, Germany and Austria half 100, the Russians about 12, the French 2 or 3, England 2 or 3, Bohemia...
Not song, then. Neither wine, women, nor song. So what is it, then? Well, it's this. Come right down to it. It's the spectacle of nearly 150 million people trying to live up to the expectations of a handful of great men who lived and died 150 years ago. Men who were so fed up with the kind of government they'd been getting, they sat down and wrote a new constitution for themselves and their children. A democratic constitution that's been added to, but never been topped before or since.
Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof.
Or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press.
Or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and petition the government for a redress of grievances.
No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law.
The right of trial by jury shall be preserved.
Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted.
Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction.
The right of the citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude.
Or on account of sex.
Those are pretty good sentiments to be kept alive and flourishing in the world today. Of course, there are other things that makes our union a good one to belong to. It's a beautiful country, even though it has a lot of incorrigible badlands and corrigible slums. Aren't many countries have as much in them to look at and wonder about as this one. This can be a rather fierce country, too. Ever see the way its mountains frown down sometimes? Know what they're frowning at? Some rumors they heard about petty intrigue, about political bosses and shysters and fakers and grafters and men who make a business of gypping the people. Ever see the way the skies suddenly get black and the thunder roars and the lightning starts throwing itself around? Ever see a storm whipping it up across the Great Lakes? That's how the American winds feel about anybody who denies anybody else a fair trial, or free speech, or the right to assemble, or the right to worship as one sees fit. Well, then, in the final analysis, there can be no analysis. Many great thinkers and poets have attempted it, but the country's too big for any one man. There's Walt Whitman and Carl Sandburg and Tom Wolfe, and they all felt the magnitude and magnificence of the nation that got put together piece by piece like a jigsaw puzzle. They felt it and wrote about it in unforgettable ways. But still, it's bigger than any of them, or any of us. Whitman hit it on the nose when he said it was bigger than the president and the cabinet and the District of Columbia. It's not Park Avenue, or Broadway, or 42nd Street, or the Loop, or the Golden Triangle. It's other things. Many, many, many other things.
Mill towns.
Steel towns.
Tobacco towns.
Mining towns.
Oil town.
Cotton towns.
Farmhouses. Railroad sidings.
Statues on the common.
Tourist houses on the edge of town along the state highway.
Swimming holes.
Gas stations. Strollers on Main Street.
Kettles of sorghum molasses.
Sunday papers. Season tickets to concerts.
Auctioneers.
Night courts. Radios. Parades. Toothpaste. Shaving cream. Dogs. Cats. Skyscrapers. Subways. Cornfields. Offices. Hotel rooms. Airports. Hospitals. Factories.
Oh, we could go on for weeks with this, never come any closer to a working definition of America, or to any real understanding of its total meaning. Look, how can you add up all the red and yellow neon signs, the smell of all the eggs and bacon frying in the morning, the bargain specials, the lessons learned, the cows let in from pasture, the mileage clocked up on automobile speedometers, the rainfall and the snowfall, and the wind drift? It's much too big for you, or me, or any of us who happen to stand alone or in small groups. It's much too great for any person or any party. Too much loved by all its people. Loved in spite of and because of its faults and virtues and its past mistakes and future promises. America is not a map, a poem, an almanac, a mural, a building in the heart of Washington. It's a territory possessed by people, possessed by an ideal. Well, that's all, listeners. Just wanted to talk between Americans for a half hour of a Sunday evening. No big finish here. No brass section bringing down the curtain. Just a little music to follow a friendly little chat. Good night, Americans.
You've just heard Orson Welles talking between Americans. Ladies and gentlemen, Orson Welles has just spoken to you as one American to another. And incidentally, do you remember when Orson mentioned the hundreds of thousands of Americans working in those oil towns and gas stations? Well, those Americans make up a great industry that's a vital part of America, the oil industry. There are about 400,000 gasoline dealers helping traffic flow along the highways, making possible business trips, visits to your friends, the stores and movies, pleasant rides in the country. That's only part of the oil industry's contribution to making the American way of life the grand thing it is. And to keep it that way, to safeguard our way of life, well, the industry's helping there, too. It's supplying fuels and lubricants for factories busy turning out materials for our defense. In addition, the oil industry is supplying all the gas and oil needs of the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force. And for the vastly augmented Air Force planned in the future, Gulf and other oil companies are building enough 100-octane aviation fuel plants to take care of the increased demand. That's only a glimpse of what the oil industry, of which Gulf is a part, means today to the American people and the American way of life. Well, next week, we really have a show that'll put you into a great humor. The RKO hit My Life with Caroline, starring those top favorites, William Powell and Ann Sothern, with George Barbier. Music by Oscar Bradley, assisted by Frank Tours. Until then, this is Roger Pryor speaking for your neighborhood good Gulf dealer and saying, good night, everyone.
Orson Welles appeared tonight through the courtesy of Lady Esther and is currently making the magnificent Ambersons at RKO. Don't forget our date next week when the Gulf Screen Guild Theater brings you William Powell, Ann Sothern, and George Barbier in My Life with Caroline. Bud Heaston speaking. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
This is Madeline Carroll.
George Murphy and Gene Raymond. The Gulf Screen Guild Theater. Presenting tonight, Long Engagement. And here is your host, the director of the Star's own theater, Roger Pryor. Good evening, everyone. The Gulf Oil Companies and your neighborhood good Gulf dealer welcome you to the Gulf Screen Guild Theater. Tonight, our offering is an unusual love story called Long Engagement. It was originally written as a short story for Red Book magazine by Catherine Forbes. We thought it so splendid a story of a girl who loved, not wisely but too well, that we had Charles Tazwell adapt it into radio form. Taz turned out a script that we think will be one of the most talked-of radio plays of the year. We also think that you will long remember the performance of Madeline Carroll as the voice of a love letter. Starred with Madeline in Long Engagement are Gene Raymond and George Murphy. Our story will begin in just a few seconds. Meanwhile, Bud Easton wants to tell you something about a job. A mighty big job. All right, Bud?
Right now, the biggest job in America is that of keeping Uncle Sam in fighting trim. And the oil industry is being called upon to help do that job, to help supply a tremendous two-ocean navy, a huge mechanized army, and a vastly enlarged air force, as well as provide lubricants and fuels for the greatly expanded industrial activity. As a result, increasingly heavy demands will be made upon the oil industry. These vital war needs are first things and must come first. Gulf recognizes this fact. At the same time, Gulf recognizes its obligation to every American family that uses an automobile in its daily life. This double obligation is no new problem to the Gulf companies. For long before defense became a paramount issue, Gulf scientists, engineers, and experts in all fields were hard at work. And now, thanks to these far-sighted efforts, Gulf can say to you, subject to the limitations set by the urgent needs of our country, you will always get, at the sign of the Gulf Orange Disc, those products of uniformly high quality which have made Gulf a leader in the petroleum field.
Thank you, Bud. And now, Long Engagement, starring Madeline Carroll as Ellen Benson, Gene Raymond as David Arkley, and George Murphy as Barry O'Neill. The special musical score is by Oscar Bradley.
If they asked me, I could write a book about the way you walk and whisper and
This is the story of a letter. The postman has just left it for Dr. David Arkley. It's a quite plain, white, ordinary letter. As Dr. Arkley holds it in his hand, the return address on the back says, quite matter-of-factly,
Return to Ellen Benson, the Logan Apartments for Women, 716 Baxter Street, San Francisco.
Dr. Arkley breaks the seal on Ellen's envelope, removes the letter, and then, through his eyes, Ellen's words, which have been sleeping on the folded pages, come to life.
Dear David, I feel that you're waiting for an answer to your message, left with a girl at the reception desk while I was out. At first I was hurt, angry. It seemed such a heartless way of telling me something that should have been gay and joyous. Then I reminded myself how busy you are. After all, compared to the many exciting events in a doctor's life, a date to get married to me isn't tremendously important. As I sit here writing to you, a crazy little chant keeps running through my head, and it bothers me because I can't remember the second line. I wrote a letter to my love, da-dum-da-dum-da-dum-dum. Isn't that a silly thing for a bride to be puzzling over? I should be thinking of how happy I'm going to be, how proud, how... But you wanted to know if next Wednesday would be satisfactory for our wedding. Well, when a girl's been engaged for 13 years, it isn't likely she'd quarrel about the day of the week, David. After a 13-long-year engagement, she'd be reminding herself that her shining dream was about to come true. Blessed by a justice of the peace. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm afraid I blotted the page. You see, I'm crying a little, remembering the wedding I planned so long ago. The 3 bridesmaids and a maid of honor at that little white mission church on Dolores Street. The wedding dress I was going to wear would look pretty silly now. Straight up and down, no waistline, and terribly short. I was wearing a dress of that style the night we first met down at Tony's. Remember? It was my 18th birthday and my first visit to a speakeasy. Oh, I remember I thought Charlie Enbrook, my escort, a remarkable man of the world, when he knocked on Tony's door with its sliding peephole in the panel.
Yeah, what you want?
Look, I'm a friend of Joe's, and I've got a card.
Okay, buddy. Come on in. I can't give you anything but love, baby.
It was there in Tony's that I saw you for the first time, David. You were sitting at a table with Willa Burnell. I didn't feel grown up at all when Charlie introduced me. You just nodded, but Willa looked at me as only a woman who knows she is perfect can look at one who isn't. I could read the words in her eyes as clearly as though she had spoken them.
What a dowdy little creature, and what an atrocious gown. What man would even look at her when I'm around?
My escort and I sat down at your table, but you and Willa hardly noticed us, David. Just quarreled between yourselves. Suddenly, Willa threw her sable coat around us, stood up, and said,
I've had enough of this. Are you coming with me, David, or are you going to sit here and drink up everything in the place? Did you hear me? I said I'm leaving. Tony, get me a taxi. Goodbye, Mr. Artley.
I felt so sorry for you, David. You looked so lost and alone. Because he was your fraternity brother, Charlie and I took you home to the fraternity house, and I sat out in the car while Charlie sneaked you in.
Don't make a sound. Gotta be quiet as mice. Gotta be quiet as teeny wee little mice.
Come on, David.
Quiet! You want to get me sent out of college and wake everybody up? Why don't you be quiet like she is? She's a nice, quiet girl. What's her name?
Ellen Benson.
Ellen Benson. Gotta remember that. Ellen Benson. Ellen Benson. Ellen
Come on,
Benson.
David. I'll sneak you in the window.
Good night, Ellen Benson.
Good night, David.
I'll call you up, huh?
Please do.
Oh, it's 3:00 in the morning.
We met often after that, David, on the campus or in town. But I never saw you take another drink. And I often wondered why you had taken so many that first night. Years later, I found out it was because Willa Burnell had broken her engagement to you at Tony's and told you she was going to marry the Heatherly millions. I still don't know why you turned to me. Perhaps it was because I was so different from Willa. You remember the night of your graduation. You ran away from the rest of the crowd and drove up through the hills to a little roadside inn. There was no one there but us, and you fed nickels to the automatic player. They didn't call them jukeboxes then, so we could dance.
Pardon me, but will you look on your program and see if this is still our dance?
Let me see. Are you the brilliant Dr. Oxley?
Ah, you've been reading my diploma.
You can't be a very good doctor. You smell of shaving lotion instead of ether.
No, I keep my patients unconscious with my charm.
Doctor, I'd like to consult you about my heart.
Oh?
Every time you kiss me, it stops. And I have to shake myself to start it over again.
I'd say you ought to get married.
Oh?
I'm getting married myself next year when my internship is over.
Really? To who?
No one you know. Her name's Ellen something or other.
Poor girl. Why doesn't she eat an apple a day and forget you?
Darling, you don't really mind waiting, do you?
Of course not. After all, we have to think of your career.
And a year isn't so long. We're both young.
Yes, but I shan't be a blushing bride, you know. I'll be 21 then, and at that age, a girl's blushing days are over.
Oh, darling, I wonder if you know how much I love you.
I don't know. I'm a frightfully stupid person, darling. Perhaps it's just telling me over and over again.
I love you. I love you. I love you.
I wrote a letter to my love. But why can't I think of the rest of that funny verse? Somehow it seems so important. But it can't have anything to do with that long year that followed. You were busy at the hospital, and we didn't see much of each other. I filled in the time by taking a business course because I thought I could be a great help to you after we were married, typing your bills and keeping your books. I studied hard, David. Shorthand, bookkeeping, typing.
Now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of the party. Now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of the party. Now is the time. Now is the time.
Paper, Wall Street panic. Read all about it.
Now is the time to buy. Prices will rise.
Extra paper, thousands ruined and crashed. Read all about it.
Now is the time to have faith. The market is sound.
Extra paper, broke with dimes and suicide leads. Read all about it.
Now is the time to invest. Stocks are bound to rise.
Extra paper, banks closed doors. Read all about it. Extra.
Yes, that was when the Depression came along, Davy. There were apple salesmen on nearly every corner, and 6 million people out of work. I was one of the lucky ones because I'd found a job at a radio station where I typed all the scripts. Remember the night we had dinner at a little Italian restaurant, and you broke the bad news over our red wine served in teacups?
You don't know how disappointed I am, Ellen. But look here. Are you crying?
No, of course not, David.
You see, this is no time to get married. It wouldn't be fair to you.
But I could keep on working.
Now, do you think I'd let you do that? What kind of a man do you take me for? My wife will never work.
But it wouldn't be for long.
No. I've got too much pride to let my wife support me.
All right, David. How long do you think this will last?
Oh, not more than a year. Everyone's saying prosperity is just around the corner.
A year?
That's not so long, is it? In the meantime, instead of sitting around hoping for patience, I'm going to keep on studying. Become a specialist. There'll be a lot of competition when all this is over. And it's the specialist who'll come out on top.
You mean you're going to take postgraduate work?
Well, that's what I'd planned, but I got a letter from my uncle this morning. He's offering me a year in Munich.
You're going to Munich?
Oh, not if you don't want me to. Oh, of course, but it's a great opportunity.
But, David...
All right. Let's forget I even mentioned it. Why, I wouldn't make you unhappy for the world, darling. The only reason I even considered going was because of you. I only wanted to get started in the right way, so I'd be recognized sooner. And you know, a year in Munich would be worth 5 here.
Yes, I suppose it would.
But you mean a great deal more to me than my career does. So I'll write Uncle tonight and tell him I'm sorry, but I can't accept his offer.
No, you mustn't do that.
The old boy will be pretty upset. Probably cut me off without a nickel. We'll get along all right, won't we?
You must tell him you'll go, David. It's a wonderful opportunity, and I'd be very selfish to keep you here.
No, I shan't go, Ellen.
If you don't, I shall never forgive myself for holding you back. You will go, won't you?
Well,
After all, as you once said, a year isn't long.
Why, it's really no time at all, darling. And we love each other. We can wait. We're young.
Yes, we're still young.
And you will wait for me, won't you?
Yes, David. Oh, yes, I'll wait. I guess I'll always wait.
And that's the first half of tonight's Gulf Theater production, Long Engagement. We'll continue our story in just a moment. And while we're waiting, we'd like to pass on some really helpful information.
Friends, with the way things are now, a good many of you car owners have decided to take extra good care of your cars. For instance, you've probably decided to get a lubrication job regularly. Well, that's a mighty good idea. Don't be satisfied with an ordinary grease job either, when you can get the modern scientific method of car lubrication, Gulflex registered lubrication, at no extra cost. Here's why Gulflexing pays such big dividends in helping your car last longer. First, the expert Gulflex operator works from a master chart of your model car, thus protects each wearing point in the chassis and body. Second, the Gulflex man uses not just 1 or 2 greases, but 6 special lubricants especially developed by lubrication authorities. And third, here's proof of how good these lubricants are. In recent tests by Gulf engineers, Gulflex chassis lubricant, for instance, stayed in the shackles 30% better and lubricated nearly 100% longer than the average of competitive products tested. So get Gulflex registered lubrication, a much better than usual grease job at no extra cost. Remember, too, that your good Gulf dealer is also ready with splendid motor oils and gasolines, such as Gulf No-Nox gasoline, the extra value gasoline that has been especially designed to stop harmful pounding and hammering inside your engine. Make it a habit to stop regularly at your neighborhood Good Gulf dealers, your headquarters for making your car last longer.
If they asked me, I could write a book about the way you walk and whisper and
And now the curtain's ready to rise on the second act of Long Engagement, starring Madeline Carroll as Ellen, Gene Raymond as David, and George Murphy as Barry.
A year isn't long. Ellen, darling, we're young. We can wait.
Yes, those were the words you used, David. That night you postponed our wedding for the first time. Written down here in my letter, your words don't sound half so brave or so gallant as they sounded then. That was because I hadn't learned that even the shortest year has 12 months, 52 weeks, 365 days, 524,160 minutes. That particular year saw the birth of what they call the recession. I never wrote you I had 3 salary cuts that year. Your letters from Munich were so happy, so amusing. I didn't want to spoil anything for you. Oh, yes. There was something else happened that year. Barry came to the radio station as production manager, and we joined a coast-to-coast network. It was a very amusing program that picked up quite a following.
Andy, what's the matter with you? Why you want to treat Madam Queen like you did?
Amos, I was regusted.
Do you mind if I write a little about Barry? He had mussed-up hair, a one-sided grin, and he had to stoop going through doors. You wouldn't have approved of him, David, because he didn't have any poise. Barry was fire and lightning and thunder, but never poise. I never told you, David, but Barry fell in love with me. It was near the end of the year, and I was at my desk typing. Suddenly, out of nowhere, his voice said,
You know, your hair is like the sun on ripe wheat. I saw it once out in Minnesota, and believe me, it's very beautiful. Say, you want to know something else? You and I have been working too hard. Let's go out and play a while.
Oh, I'd like to, Barry, but I can't, really.
I suppose the reason is that engagement ring on your finger.
That's the biggest one.
Well, what's the matter with the guy? Doesn't he know how lucky he is? Why doesn't he ever come around?
He's been in Munich for a year, studying for his career.
Oh, I see. Well, I'd consider being married to you a great career. What's he going to be?
A doctor. He's coming home next Tuesday. Oh, could I have the morning off to meet the boat?
Sure, why not? Take the whole day off. And say, tell him I said he's a lucky guy. Tell him I said he's got a great gal. And tell him I said, I hope he falls off the boat.
I wrote a letter to my love. Da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. Why does that keep running through my mind? And why can't I remember the rest of it? I'm quite sure I wasn't thinking of it when I met your boat, David. I was too busy hoping you might say, let's get married right away. Because for some reason I was suddenly afraid. But you didn't say. Yet I was terribly proud of you. You looked so foreign and distinguished, and told such amusing stories about Lady So-and-so's appendix, a count's insomnia, and the temperamental tonsils of a famous actress.
Oh, I see. What an amusing experience, Doctor.
But after a while, I found it hard to join in with the laughter, David. At parties, I used to hide away by myself. I read dull books in your friends' libraries, powdered and repowdered my nose at their dressing tables, amused myself with the dusty keyboards of their grand pianos. That's how I was passing the evening at the Whitney's when you came looking for me.
I've been looking all over for you.
Have you, David?
Is anything wrong?
No, there's nothing wrong.
Darling, I've some grand news. I've been dying to tell you all evening, but there wasn't a chance.
Yes, David?
This is going to bowl you right over. It's so wonderful, I can hardly believe it myself. Listen. Dr. Grenneton is going to take me into his office.
David, I'm so glad for you.
For me? You mean for us, darling. This is the break I've been waiting for ever since I came back. And I wanted to be sure of it before I said anything to you about getting married.
Oh, David, why didn't you tell me?
Look here. Don't tell me you've been thinking that I was forgetting about us.
What else could I think?
Why, Helen, there's no love in the world like ours. You'll never know how much I wanted you while I was gone. Of the times I came very near giving up everything and coming back to you.
Oh, darling, what...
Oh, darling, don't ever doubt me. Don't ever, ever doubt me. I love you. I love you.
David, oh, David. We set the 1st of June as our wedding day, David. Yes, I bought a traveling suit and a funny little hat with a perky red feather to wear away on our honeymoon. You wanted it kept a secret, so I hadn't said a word about us until one day down at the radio station.
Look here, Ellen.
Yes, Barry?
You can't be serious about this, Barry.
I am very serious.
Well, why doesn't he stop talking and begin working so he can get married? How long does he expect you to wait?
That's my business. If I'm willing to wait,
I know, but let me tell you something. Long engagements are the bunk.
It's none of your business, Barry, but we're getting married in June.
Oh, June, huh? Do you love him very much?
Completely, utterly, absolutely.
Okay, but don't think you can convince me or yourself by shouting.
Oh.
By the way, I'm leaving for New York next week. They're giving me a job on the network.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Send me a wedding announcement, and I'll send you a present. An X-ray picture of a broken heart. I'll pose for it myself.
I'm glad Barry was gone when you told me your mother was feeling badly and you had to take her to Honolulu, David. I'm afraid I'd have felt very foolish having to face him. Then, when you came back, your job with Dr. Grenison had evaporated. And so had our wedding day and June roses. Well, you and I kept going out together. Sunday dinners at your mother's, this, that, while a month flew by. And one morning I looked in the mirror and I was 30. There were shadows on my face that had never been there before, David. And some lines that no vanishing cream would ever erase. Yes, and there was a red mark on my nose from the glasses I'd begun to wear for reading and typing. Typing the years away on 42 black and white keys, plus spacebar, margin release, tabulator, shift key, backspace, and a bell to mark the end of the line.
World News. Our follow. Take this. Just plain Bill. Eddie Cannon. The Quizkid. Silver Theater. We the people.
Do you take this woman? Do you take this typewriter? Do you promise to cherish by authority of the Federal Radio Commission? 13 years, David. 13 years ending in 42 black and white keys on my typewriter. 42 black and white keys, plus spacebar, margin release, tabulator, shift key, backspace, and bell.
World News. All follow. Take this. Just plain Bill. Eddie Cannon. Silver Theater.
Hello, Ellen.
Barry, where did you drop from?
Oh, just passing through town. I thought I'd stop off and say hello. You glad to see me?
I'd always be glad to see you.
Say, I thought this station had a rule against married women working.
I'm not married yet.
Oh, still the patient Griselda.
Don't joke about it, Barry.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I don't think it's funny. Loving somebody and not being able to have them is hell, isn't it? See, I know how it is.
How do you know, Barry?
Well, Ellen, oh, never mind. Just remember this. Habit and pity can be blinding things and devastating. Well, I have to rush now to catch my plane. Goodbye, Ellen.
Goodbye, Barry.
You know, by now, you should have had tall sons.
And that brings us up to today, David. To this noontime, when I got your note setting the day for our wedding. It was written by the girl at the desk, and it said,
Dr. David Arkley called. 2:00 on Wednesday will be satisfactory. He said you would understand.
That's what your note said, David. And this is my letter in answer to it. Here on these pages are all the threads of our romance. Broken, mended, drab, and gay. I suppose I should try to weave them into place again. But I'm not going to do it, David. I'm not, because your note wasn't the only message waiting for me when I came back. Yours was short and to the point. But the other was a telegram, gloriously, extravagantly long. It was from Barry, and it said,
Chance here in New York to work with me. Stop. Wonderful opportunity. Stop. Griselda was an awful fool, because the years are many, but the days are few. Stop. Eastbound planes leave daily. Stop. I love you and will never stop.
I wrote a letter to my love. I know the rest of that phrase now, David. It goes like this. I wrote a letter to my love, and on the way I lost it. Only I'm not losing this letter, David. I'm sending it to you. Sending it to tell you that somewhere along our 13-year way we lost our love. Barry is right. The years are many, but the days are few. I'm taking that plane. I'm going to Barry. And if you ever come to New York, you can look us up. You'll find us in the city directory. Mr. and Mrs. Barry O'Neill.
When the world discovers that my book ends, how to make two lovers a friend.
Thank you, Madeline Carroll, George Murphy, and Gene Raymond. And thanks to Martha Mears, who sang our theme tonight. You were all splendid. And it was splendid of you to donate your performances tonight, so that Gulf could give the money you would ordinarily have received to the Motion Picture Relief Fund.
Say, Roger.
Yeah, Murph?
I feel a little nostalgic tonight.
Yeah, how come?
Well, if you'll remember way back, I was master of ceremonies on this Gulf Screen Guild Show program when it started 4 years ago.
That's right.
So I wondered if you'd kind of let me announce next week's show, huh? Just for old time's sake.
You go right ahead, Murph. The microphone's yours.
Thanks, Rod. Ladies and gentlemen, next week, the Gulf Screen Guild Theater will bring you the most thrilling screen melodrama in years, Warner Brothers' High Sierra. And in it will be two favorites of yours whom you won't want to miss, Humphrey Bogart and Claire Trevor. Yes, sir, there's a great show all waiting for you as a New Year's present. Humphrey Bogart and Claire Trevor in High Sierra. And there'll be a special musical score by Oscar Bradley. So don't forget to be back at your radio next Sunday at this time. I know I'll be at mine. Until then, this is your old master of ceremonies, George Murphy, and here's your new one, Roger Pryor.
And speaking for your neighborhood good Gulf dealer, here's both of us saying good night
and
a Happy New Year, everyone.
And now, Gulf brings you a message about defense savings bonds. Because our country is now at war, it needs the help of every man, woman, and child in these United States. Each one of us can help our country by buying defense bonds or stamps. Buy them at your bank or post office and keep on buying them regularly from now on. Rod Easton speaking. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.